use they, them pronouns, and I was born and raised on the occupied land of the Napi Nation, also known as New York City. I apologize in advance for the background noise because there is a lot of construction happening. Visually, I am a white and Asian non-binary femme with light olive skin. I am wearing a green button down and a green blazer. I am seated in front of a bookshelf filled with books on technology, philosophy, anti-racism, decolonization, and narratives of liberation, and also my art supplies. I worked in technology for many years, and I ended up leaving because there were far too many times where I did not have the language or the research to speak out on what I inherently felt was wrong in the tech industry. So I went into research and I found myself in digital rights spaces. I noticed though that there was still this lack of depth to the conversation when we were talking about fairness, accountability, and transparency of algorithms. Through my research, I realized that it was really a lack of understanding of systems of oppression, racism, and colonialism. And that is why I'm very excited to be here today speaking to all of you. I truly believe that you all bring the necessary expertise, experiences, and work into the conversations that are happening, and we really need you. So before I get into it, I will tell you a bit about what I'll be covering. So I'm going to spend some time establishing a shared language. So I am completely sure already that all of you know far more than me about decolonizing and anti-racism work. So I'm not going to spend too much time on defining those terms, but I still included it because I really build off of those definitions to form my critique of technology and the role it plays in oppression. So after the background info and ensuring that we have a shared language, then I'll share some high-level examples of algorithmic injustice. And finally, I end with what my vision for the future of technology is. And I invite you all to build on it, or even better, create your own vision with your own expertise, because whether you know it or not yet, you all are already experts on this topic. You just need the technological language to express it. So I hope that this talk helps you recognize that within yourself and contextualize technology within your own work. So let's start at the beginning. What is technology? Let's really define it. I define technology as not only an industry, but a tool that has transformed every other industry. And today we're talking about AI. But as Andrew mentioned, what we're really talking about though is machine learning, which is one type of AI. And within that, what I'm really talking about in this talk is machines that make decisions. So I want to start off with the context of how human decision-making has developed over time. So we started with carrying out the will of a divine entity to a shift where many humans found power in making their own decisions. And another shift is happening today, this time to algorithms. But these algorithms don't exist outside of structures and systems of oppression. Technology is a tool, and we can expand this definition of technology through exploring what it means for technology to be a tool. Tools get their meaning from the context that they're used in, and the example that I like to use is a hammer. A hammer can be constructive, it could be used to build a house, or it could be destructive, it could be used to destroy a house. And the level of damage that a hammer can do is far, far less than the damage that technology can and has done. But I'm saying this all to demonstrate that technology exists in a social and political context that it cannot be meaningfully separated from. And that context is colonialism, racism, and systems of oppression. So very quickly, I will go through quick definitions of colonization and racism, and then we'll move on. I'm going to read directly because there's this quote from Kixala Carson that I really love on colonization. So, colonization is when a small group of people impose their practices, norms, and values. They take away resources and capacity from Indigenous people, often through extreme violence and trauma. Colonizers bring their axiology, which is how things are quantified and how value and worth are prescribed to things. They impose their assessment on the value of the people, resources, and land that then become embedded in the institution that then creates the nation state and settler colonialism. All of the established laws, policies, institutions, and governance structures are based on those beliefs that were brought upon contact. Colonial beliefs also influence epistemology, how we conceive and transfer knowledge, as well as what knowledge we see as credible and valid. This goes for ontology too, which is how we exist within these structures and how we interpret reality is all deeply influenced by colonization. Axiology, epistemology, and ontology come together to create a narrative of how normal is defined, end quote. And we see colonization manifesting in our day-to-day lives, whether it's us occupying territories without invitation or permission, missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, people living without access to clean drinking water, resource extraction, and most recently, the illegal settlements, ethnic cleansing, and state-sanctioned violence against Palestine. And I'll be quoting Slow Factory here. This demonstrates very clearly that colonization is not abstract. It is material and it is violent. Decolonization is not a metaphor. It is a collective act of resistance. And from there, I'll move to defining racism. And I'm not going to fully define racism because I'm sure you all already know. So I'm just going to talk about the ideological and institutional manifestations of racism. So the system of racism is based on a delusional idea that one group is somehow better than the other, and in some measure has the right to control the other group. This delusional idea has been embedded in institutions, structures, beliefs, practices, and the narratives of society. That becomes embedded in the laws, the legal system and police practice, the education system and schools, hiring policies, public policies, housing development, media images, political power, medical treatment, economic power, and political systems. Both decolonization and anti-racism ultimately require the overturning of the colonial and racist structures. It's not about tweaking the existing system to make it a little less oppressive. The existing system is fundamentally and irreparably flawed. So now that I've set the context, now we're going to return to the topic of technology. And basically, I want to introduce this idea that technology is designed, developed, and deployed within the context of racism, colonialism, and systems of oppression. Therefore, it cannot be meaningfully separated from these systems that we are immersed in. And Andrew mentioned a lot of examples, and I'll just add on to that. It looks like risk assessment algorithms like Compass and Siri, deciding whether someone goes to prison or not, or whether they can get out on parole. It looks like lie detector algorithms used in immigration agencies. It looks like child welfare services using algorithms to decide who is deemed worthy of parenting their child. And all of these algorithms are biased, in the words of Virginia Eubanks, against people of color, migrants, unpopular religious groups, sexual minorities, and other oppressed groups. And not only is technology a tool designed, developed, and deployed within this context, it's a tool to enact dominance. Oppression is automated through the infrastructure of technology. And seen from this perspective, it's clear that the system is not broken. The system is doing exactly what it was designed to do. Technology is only one tool in a multi-dimensional experience of systems of oppression. And typically in digital rights spaces, from my experiences and in tech spaces, there is a hyper focus on challenging the technology system itself. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't focus on tech, we absolutely should, but we really need to take these actions from the understanding that these technologies are only a symptom, not the root cause. And that is why I believe that all of you are the ones who should be leading the long-term strategies in this space, because you have the deepest understanding of racism, colonialism, and systems of oppression. And I know learning artificial intelligence and machine learning can feel extremely overwhelming, but please remember that you are already an expert on this. You have such a rich and deep understanding of the context of technology. And I 100% believe in my heart you have a better understanding of it than I do. You understand the social and political consequences of technology and the social political consequences of systems of oppression. And technology is just another tool of dominance used by those systems. So I know I'm at time, and I'll end my talk with sharing my vision for the future. And that is that tech should no longer be used as a tool for domination, but rather a tool for facilitating healing, justice, and liberation.